All right, so welcome everyone. Thank you for coming to the talk. Last year I played everyone into lunch, and this year I'm playing everyone out. I don't know which direction I like better. Probably the former, but it's fine, it worked out. This talk is an introduction to Distrogen, which is a tool that I wrote for generating OpenTelemetry collector distributions. But before that, it'll be an introduction to myself. If you don't know me, I think half the room does, but if you don't know me, my name is Braydon Kains, Braydon K on GitHub. If you're in the collector repos or semantic convention repos, you'll have seen that username likely, as I recently became a contrib approver, so I'm much more active there, and I'm also the code owner of the host metrics receiver, and I'm setting my sights on the file log receiver as well. So if you want to talk about any of those things separate from collector building, you can feel free to come find me. Recently, we released the Google-built OpenTelemetry collector. Made a deliberate choice to avoid the G. naming, just because we're not actually diverting in any way from upstream OpenTelemetry collector. It's just a build on our infrastructure with the various compliance and build attestation things that you need. But to actually facilitate the building of the collector, the tool under the hood that we use is OCB. And we use OCB to build that and a couple other collectors at Google. And what I found was that managing a collector distribution long-term with this configuration was a little bit frustrating. I found the config kind of cumbersome. It works fine, and it is endemic to the fact that it's built from Go modules anyway, but having to attach the right version to every tag, knowing which ones need the stable version, or even just looking at a config and seeing like what actually do I have in here takes a little bit of time to parse, and I found that a little bit frustrating. And I also found that managing multiple distributions of the collector was more than just that OCB config. It really didn't answer all the questions. Like, you need a Docker file for it that matches what upstream does, and that I found not to be standardized. It just, we all kind of happen to use the same entry point and command setup, and then it all kind of works. And you also want something like Go Releaser to handle packages if you're distributing binaries, and we were rewriting a lot of like make files and scripts, and they were all doing the same thing, managing OCB and collector builds. And I decided to turn this all into a tool that solves those problems for me, and I called it Distrogen. It's a tool for generating and managing. I should really put that in the description too. It's also for managing OpenTelemetry collector distributions. I wrote a separate config surface for it that I think is a bit simpler to look at the sort of the current state of your distribution. It automatically generates all the configs for Go Releaser, the make files, the OCB manifests, all the stuff that you need, and it makes it easier to manage it long-term through the config. I'm going to attempt a live demo. This is my first time doing a live demo for a conference, so this is going to be interesting. So we'll start with the Distrogen configuration. Comes with stuff that sort of just gets plumbed through to the OCB manifest, which you might be familiar with already. The first sort of deviation is that you mention what OpenTelemetry version and what stable version of OpenTelemetry you're on. You also declare the Go version that you're using. And there's a couple other niceties like what feature gates you want to enable or disable, what Docker repo you want builds to push to, and the list of components uses simplified names instead of full module resolution, full module URLs. And the way I did this was with another sort of config surface, which is registry. This was painfully handcrafted by an AI told what to do. It uses the simple name of the component, or what the name that ends up in the config, as the key, and it tells it where the Go mod is, where the docs URL is, and it's also possible to write a registry for local components that you have within your repo and tell it to resolve the local copies instead. So if we were to generate with that, what did I call it? There we go. The distribution that is generated looks something like this. I think the pièce de résistance is the big old make file, which I think is reasonably sophisticated for a Go developer, but it comes with all the various utilities you need for building the collector binary itself, building an image, and it also handles installing Go and OCB at the right versions based on what you specified in that original spec. So because we specified in the distro spec, we're using Go 1.24.0, OpenTelemetry 0.1.21.0. When it does the build, it will actually download the right version of Go, the right version of OCB for all that stuff. Additionally, the manifest will, I'm on like a weird resolution thing, so the font's kind of big, although I guess that's good for the projector, right? It'll attach the right version to the components that you pass in based on what the registry says. So if the registry says that a component is stable, it'll attach the stable version of OpenTelemetry instead. There's some more work to do, I think, to make it so that you can have like custom version mappings, because I think in other distributions of the collector, people are tagging their components at different cadences than what the main OpenTelemetry version is. So there's still some work to do there, but right now this works off of that registry that I showed you is embedded in the Distrogen binary. So if you Go installed the thing, you'd get this automatically, and you could write your own if you had local components that you needed to resolve instead. The Docker file is, oh my God. The Docker file is copied very much like, well, actually this entire folder pretty much, its entire structure. If you're familiar with the OpenTelemetry collector releases repo, I used it very much as the inspiration for what gets generated. And the proper entry point, which includes the feature gates if you want to, if you enabled any in your distribution spec, as well as the flags that are, this flag is passed in directly in CMD, and this is very purposeful because if you were using contrib in your deployments or some other distribution, more common distribution, they are likely doing the same setup. And if you want to just take your distribution that you generated and put in your own Docker file, it should just drop in replace for contrib, assuming that you don't have any like components that weren't in contrib or something like that. I also, for convenience, include some Docker files for if you want to do the Go releaser release within a Docker file, or if you want to do the entire build of the container in a Docker file, and you can do the build cross-platform, that's also included. And finally, the Go releaser config, which is, I can't read, where is it? How am I missing it? I'm not sure where I put it. But anyways, the Go releaser configuration is for, it allows you to build on multi-platform and comes with the stuff you need to install it in systemd and various Linux packages when it gets packaged into a Debian RPM by Go releaser as well. I think that's everything that I have to show for the demo. I guess I can do the make build to show how it's installing the right version of Go. While it's doing that, just as an example, let's say we're updating the version of OpenTelemetry that we want to use. You would have to go look at the upstream repo, see what the stable version is that as well. I haven't made the automatic resolution work yet, but you'd put the right version of OpenTelemetry in the OpenTelemetry stable, and you could change the version of Go you're using if you want to fix some vulnerabilities. This is basically the flow for Google-built OpenTelemetry collector. Every 2 weeks we go and we check, is there a new Go patch, and use the new OTel versions, and then we will regenerate the distribution, and all the right new values will be formatted in. Okay, conference Wi-Fi is going to make this take a very long time, so unfortunately you're just going to have to get the idea. It does work. I've tried it. I think that's everything I have for the demo. So I'd be remiss not to mention that there is an alternative tool. This landed at the same time, essentially, as I was working on this. The OTel distribute builder from now BindPlane, their org is still called ObserveIQ, but they are now known as BindPlane. And they instead, they're called a distro builder, a distribution generator, but they're solving the problem at a different part of the pipeline than Distrogen is, where they have lots of nice automation for your GitHub actions and your Google Cloud Builder, whichever you want to use, and for publishing of artifacts. That is something I did not solve in Distrogen because I made it for a Google-built OpenTelemetry collector, and we have our own nonsense infrastructure internally. So we're not using any of that stuff. So if that's the part you're really worried about, the distro builder would be good, although I do really want to collaborate with them and just sort of merge some of the problems. That is one of the future plans, along with in the Google built OTel collector repo, I did a lot of manual work for resolving components locally that I think everyone would have to redo if they wanted to have an effective setup, and really I think Distrogen should just handle that. So treating Distrogen more as like a full distribution like project manager, where you can add a component locally and it will automatically add it to your local registry and allow you to refer to it within the Distrogen spec and stuff. I wrote a lot of the functionality to do that and then kind of ran out of time before preparing for the talk, but I am working on that. And I would like to move it to a better place. Right now it's in a Google Cloud repo called OpenTelemetry Operations Collector. And I want to move it to like an OpenTelemetry org repo or something, like donate it upstream would be good. And as I say that, I'm sort of shadow dropping that I am interested in forming a SIG around this problem. If you are interested in OpenTelemetry Collector building and coming up with more standardization around how this stuff works, what I'd really like is to turn a lot of the stuff that Distrogen has done sort of as like assumptions about how things work and turn them into proper standards. Like maybe there could be people publishing custom components could have some sort of declaration of like, what OTel root version are you supporting with this tag, so I know I can pull it, or things like that. There's lots of little problems like that that I want to solve. So if you're interested in joining a SIG like that, DM me on the Slack or come find me after. I think that's everything I got. Thank you. I think there should be time for, I prepared my talk as if it was a 10-minute slot. So I think we got a little bit of time for questions if anybody has any. Cool, I guess we're good then. Thank you very much.